You've all experienced personal revival before. If you've been born again, you've experienced personal revival. That means that you were dead and God did something that caused you to come alive. And that's revival. That's what the word revival means. And you have to qualify for revival, you have to be dead. Then he makes you come alive by his grace, and he visits us and manifests himself to us, speaks to us, does something that causes us to come alive, and that is revival. And in Romans chapter 6, verses 1 to 11, Paul talks about the born-again experience, and he talks about experiencing death and then life. And he talks about that happening through baptism. So we know he's talking about the born-again experience. But there's a little line in here where it says, therefore we were buried with him through baptism into death, that just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life. And that phrase, newness of life, is revival. It means revival. And it's a walk, and it's an experience. And he's talking about the born-again experience. And so when I look at how I was born again, and all the things that led up to it, they're really some of the same key factors that go into personal revival today, 40 years later. When I first met the Lord, I'd come to the end of myself. There's no one who could help me but God. And there's times when I come to that same experience these days where I come to the end of myself, tired of doing it my own way, doing my own thing. And I call it to God because I realize there's no one who can help me but him. And that can lead to revival. When we're desperate for change, we want a new beginning, we want a do-over, we want to start over again. Even a good Christian walk where you've lived in the church and you've played it safe and you've done it. But then there's this sense where I just want to stop the world, get off. I just want to meet God again. And it's not becoming born again, but it's getting back to the source and experience what we experienced in the beginning. Whenever we look to him and we ask him to provide change, to change us, we come to him in simple childlike faith where you can't figure it out with your head. You can tap in the newness of life. And if you try to just, there are people who live their whole Christian life in their head. And it has to make sense and it has to be logical. And there's something about childlikeness that it doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter. You just believe it. And in that, hidden in that childlikeness is newness of life. And I've seen it with professionals, pastors and theologians, where they come to the end of, they find that all of that really doesn't change anything, and all that they've ever learned and all that they've ever known, and their theological perspective may be even perfect. They've got it all working just right, but then life hits them. Something happens to them. And they realize none of that really matters. What matters is having a fresh encounter with the living God. And they become childlike again. It's a profound thing to see. You don't have to understand everything. We have to somehow get out of our heads and start following our hearts. Both Peter and James said that God gives grace to the humble. He resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. And there's times where we just come into a kind of honesty. You could say God gives grace to the honest, where we become honest about our true selves. We become honest about our true condition. We just get honest to God. And in that is often it can lead to revival, where we say, here's the truth about me. Here's the reality about me. And we break with that. and pursue God afresh. And in that there's newness of life. It says that he resists the proud. There's people who live by appearances, and they live by the opinions of people, and they want the opinions of people. There's a presentation, and there's such liberty to get rid of the presentation, to get rid of the pretense of how we look to others and pretending. He resists that. He wants us to be honest. He's looking for the honest. God is searching for those who worship him in spirit and in truth, in honesty. He's attracted to that. Even if it's saying, I've messed up. Even if it's saying, I've been living a lie. Even if it's saying, I've been living in the shallow end of the pool. My Christianity has lost something, and I want to get back to the source. That can lead to revival. That's what caused me to become born again in the first place, is I got honest with myself, honest with my true condition. I had lived such a fast-paced life that I really never stopped to look at all the harm I'd done, people I'd hurt, lies I'd told, lies that I was living. But then all that came crashing down, and it all got stripped away, and I realized I needed God. I needed help. I need someone. I was kind of looking for someone, some UFO, somebody from another planet who could come and kind of help us down here. I found out that that's a lie. Found out that it's Jesus. It's Jesus coming back. I called upon his name. I surrendered to him. I confessed my sins. I stated my true condition. And I did this by faith, not following my feelings. And it led to newness of life. And that wasn't a once and for all kind of experience. I've needed revival again. I've never been born again, but I need to walk in newness of life. It's a perpetual coming into new experiences with God, new depths, new relationship with God. Perhaps that's why Paul wrote to the Colossians in Colossians chapter 2, verses 6 and 7. It says, as you therefore have received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk in him, rooted and built up in him, established in the faith, as you have been taught, abounding in it with thanksgiving. So as you've received the Lord, walk in him. You received him in simplicity. That's how you need to walk in him. You need to come back to that again and again and again. As you receive the Lord in great honesty and in great need, just come back to him, walk in him. So however you found the Lord, however you met the Lord, it's just getting back to that same experience again. It's coming into that again and again and again.